Russia, the world's leading energy superpower, has now been forced to halt all fuel exports on an emergency basis. This can only be described as one of the rarest strategic spectacles since the war began. The Ukrainian military's integrated drone warfare has already achieved strategic objectives, completely crippling Russia's enormous rear refinery network. This all-out assault targeting the energy lifeline has step-by-step pushed Moscow into a logistical dead end. Keep in mind, all these destroyed central hubs are key facilities for refining crude oil into fuel. If these refining units shut down, it's as if Russia's fuel supply is cut off right at the source. During this intense wave of strikes, several major refineries were forced offline at the same time. The remaining plants simply can't make up such a shortfall. From an industrial capacity standpoint, this crisis set off a domino effect that has swept across Russia's refinery network. After the Ryazan refinery was hit in mid-May, its capacity immediately dropped by 90% and even came to a complete standstill. As for the Yaroslavl strike, the core equipment suffered extremely high damage rates. After the Perm refinery had to abruptly shut down 3 main crude processing units, it also had to announce a total shutdown for repairs. When so many large refineries take these kinds of wartime losses at once, it's clearly not just a series of isolated attacks. Moscow is now facing a cliff-edge collapse in usable refining capacity. As fuel output across the system plummets, this pressure immediately ripples through to exports, forcing Moscow to make long-term compromises. Russia had already imposed a ban on gasoline exports on April 1st, and plans to extend it through the end of July. That means fuel regulation is already underway before the next round of strikes. Fuel controls were already being implemented. Under the export ban, Russia's refined products exports in April plunged by nearly 340,000 barrels a day month-on-month, dropping directly to the level of 2.2 million barrels per day. Ukraine's ability to achieve such a strategic result relies on continuous, sustained attacks on fuel production and new units. They carry out uninterrupted, persistent strikes. Just in the first 20 days of May, 10 major oil facilities in Russia were bombed, 6 of which had to be completely shut down. What makes this tactic so deadly is that Ukrainian forces always strike again before repairs are completed, hitting repeatedly and relentlessly. And they specifically target Russia's hardest-to-replace core processing zones. The Perm refinery is a textbook example. By May 8th, it had already been bombed 5 times. The airstrikes on the 12th finally knocked it out for good. This kind of ultra-high-frequency repeated assault completely cut off any hope that repair crews had of restoring capacity. It ultimately robbed the plant of all refining ability. The same saturation tactic was also used on Yaroslavl and Ryazan. Relentless bombardments left no time for emergency repairs, but instead turned pre-existing damage into catastrophic destruction. Yaroslavl endured 3 airstrikes in May alone, while the May 5th attack on Ryazan was even more devastating. Kstovo and Seslin were also hit a second time, causing several major local processing plants to once again fall into a quagmire of capacity paralysis. Additionally, Kirishi port and several crucial pumping stations didn't escape unscathed either. This directly resulted in the still operational refineries being unable to even receive crude oil. Consequently, the raw materials supplied to remaining plants keep dwindling, while they're expected to meet even greater nationwide fuel demand. This supply-demand imbalance has pushed the supply chain bottleneck to the breaking point. From a macro-strategic perspective, Ukraine's sabotage operation is forcing Russia to pour enormous resources into protecting and repairing rear air facilities far from the front lines. This compels the Russian military to reallocate its precious frontline air defenses and assign them to the energy sector. But repeated airstrikes keep nullifying early restoration efforts. With refineries persistently out of action, fuel distribution and allocation are becoming increasingly difficult. This energy crisis is compounding and escalating the logistical strain on the Russian military machine. Russia is now forced to confront a dangerous vulnerability in its rear areas, exposing a truly fatal weak spot. Because every new round of destruction widens the gap between frontline supply needs and rear production capacity.